Hey Seth,
Hey, Allie.
how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm excited to get to today's guest.
Yes. Yes, today we have Adam Baumel. He is the president and founder of Neighbors Not Numbers Coalition, and they are dedicated specifically to abolishing ICE. So, Adam, welcome to Left Out Loud.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. So, tell me, this is such a sensitive, visceral topic, I think, for so many Americans. And ICE has really taken center stage since Trump's second term in office in terms of just absolute violence and mayhem and, um, you know, unnecessary actions across the country, coast to coast. I know for me and for a lot of Americans, Minnesota was kind of the tipping point. That was when we all collectively were like, what the fuck is happening? This is out of control. Couldn't believe what we were seeing with our eyes. Um, was there a tipping point? Was there sort of a flashpoint or a watershed moment that gave birth to this organization, this coalition?
So I don't want to say it was one specific incident. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
been a collection, like building up over time. And I mean, I think many of us can kind of look back at the 2024 election and look back even further, of course, not just
Yeah.
then, and say pain reduction voting. Does it actually work, or is it
Mhm.
just getting along to get along?
Right.
Um, and I was sick of voting just based on the not numerous, the exact opposite of numerous options that I had in the
Mm-hmm.
voting booth. So I thought this was a kind of a vacuum where I could at least fill some of that space and make as much of a difference as I can without being a billionaire, because I'm not a
Right.
billionaire.
Yeah, not none of us on the panel are billionaires. That's for sure. So, why don't for the audience, just give like an overview of the coalition. Is there sort of a charter? What exactly is the mission of your organization?
Of course. So the first mission, and of course the primary mission, we can't look past this, is abolishing ICE.
Hmm.
But for the naysayers, we are not looking just to abolish ICE and leave like a void and just say, hey, just like come through the turnstiles. We do need to have some sort of system and order, but we need to have a system that is far more humane and far more logical.
Hmm.
We shouldn't be spending billions upon billions for private prisons, which is
Right.
a lot of what the money is going to right now. We shouldn't be giving ICE agents $50,000 bonuses, which I think they're not even actually getting them. So they're being stiffed, which is something Trump is very much
Shocking.
used to.
Yeah,
If
shocking
people are
that he
familiar
would
with
do that.
Atlantic City. So
Hmm.
it's, but we have to get past that. So in the pledge, there are four different tenets. The first few tenets are about abolishing ICE. Like you have to support abolishing ICE every opportunity you get, never wanting to increase funding or even give the same funding it's getting. But then we have to replace the system with something that's humane, something that is focused on human beings. And
Hmm.
that's kind of where the name kind of spawned from. Because right now, people are being looked at as numbers. They're not being looked at
Right.
as human beings.
Yep.
So neighbors, not numbers,
Okay.
is kind of where it came from.
Perfect. Brilliant. Seth?
Yeah. Hey, Adam. So, what I would like to know, because we've got so far 50 candidates have joined the cause. They've pledged to, abolish ICE, and I think that's a great start. I think it was really smart, to, like you said, to differentiate your candidates. I mean, we don't a lot of times we don't know where people stand. Well, I want to stand with anybody who wants to abolish ICE. It's a waste of money. It's terrible for families. It's awful for the economy. I mean, the economy in some of these big cities that ICE has invaded. I mean, people are just staying at home. So I'm down for anybody who wants to abolish ICE off top. So have you been able to reach out to basically every candidate in these primaries? I noticed that you guys have been pretty diligent about that.
So we're definitely focusing on the primaries that are sooner, that are coming up sooner. So for instance,
Mhm.
tomorrow there's a handful of primaries. Pennsylvania is a big one.
Yeah.
There's a handful tomorrow. And then we have California 2 weeks from tomorrow. So
Mm.
it's been a busy time.
Yeah, yeah.
No doubt.
But I mean, I don't think people realize how many candidates are running for the House and the U.S. Senate in the U.S. It's
It's
like over
so
1,000.
many.
It's
Right.
crazy.
Hundreds, yeah.
So there's 5 board members. So there's myself and 4 others. And I've kind of tried to split up the work. But being an insane neurodivergent person, I end up doing more than I probably should on my
Mhm.
own.
Yeah,
But I'm fueled by every single person who responds, who is open-minded to having an actual conversation. And we're starting to make some inroads.
good.
But something that I can't take any credit for, but I don't know if you saw, I think it was Seth Moulton who appeared on Mehdi Hassan's show maybe a
Mhm.
month and a half ago.
Yep.
He's calling to abolish ICE. Do you
Wow.
know how centrist or moderate, whatever you want to call it, Seth Moulton is? Like he's
Mhm.
what was he, CIA or NSA or
Right.
so if Seth Moulton can find the courage to do
Mhm.
this, anyone can. And I
Yeah,
mean, we have candidates in Arkansas. We have candidates everywhere. It's well, not everywhere, 23 states, but we
sure.
have candidates all over the place, and it's not just in like super blue, like Oregon and California. So
Mhm.
there is definitely space for this argument to be had, and people just need to actually try to have it.
So, kind of a two-part question. I guess the first part is if you approach a candidate and they refuse to sign this pledge, right? Do you highlight people that don't sign it as well as people that do join the coalition and make that commitment?
So we are in the process still of building out our infrastructure. So one of those
Okay.
things is kind of building out our database.
Okay.
So unfortunately, one of those things that you have to do to do this is collect money. So
Yep.
for instance, Ballotpedia, and I have no problem admitting this like kind of openly. I don't think there's any issue with that. They are asking $700 to include their database so you can literally see every single candidate running in the United States,
Okay.
and no one updates anything that they have close to what Ballotpedia has. So
Mm-hmm.
that is pretty much the next goal when it comes to finances. And I know I kind of took a little detour here from the
No,
question you
no,
asked.
no. I mean, those are the logistics, right? Those are the mechanisms that either help or hinder, the work that we try to do when it comes to advocacy and organizing. So I get that.
Course. But I mean, beyond that, as of right now, we're shouting out candidates. But something I do want to make it clear is we're not endorsing candidates. We're
Hmm.
just making it clear which candidates have taken this pledge and which have not.
So it's
So
similar to kind of like an APAC tracker,
yeah,
kind of.
because like the thing is, there's some candidates who've taken this pledge who are no longer running. There's a guy you may have heard of him. His name is Mark Moran. Well, I don't think he's running anymore. He was going
Okay.
to be running as a Democrat for the U.S. Senate in, I think it was Massachusetts. He has had some bizarre happenings over the last month or month
Mm.
and a half. Like
Okay.
just if you look into him, you'll see some
Yeah,
crazy
yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah.
So he's like nowhere on social media anymore. But like the thing
Okay.
is, I'm happy he took the pledge, but
Right.
I'm not endorsing you voting for this guy.
Sure, sure, sure. And that's an important distinction.
Yeah, but like
Um,
you should do your due diligence. If you
yeah,
see where a candidate stands on Gaza, you see where a candidate stands on education, on
right.
economics. This is one piece of the puzzle, but I think it's a
Hmm.
really relevant piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely. And our piece is more about policy, policy positions and PAC money. And, when we talk to candidates, we're kind of trying to flush them out
Yeah,
from every angle. But this piece of it, we don't really talk about that. I don't think we've really talked about that so far. So, like you said, we all have a piece in this puzzle of trying to make sure that we're electing the right candidates at the right time to meet this moment. And
of
ICE is
course.
such a big part of that. And the second part of my question is, how's the reception so far I mean, obviously you have, I think, Seth, you mentioned 50 candidates that have taken the pledge. Um,
So it's actually more than that, but that's how many
okay,
candidates are still running.
got it.
So I want to say at this point, there are 2 or 3 candidates who are either in a runoff or have won their primaries.
Mhm.
Chelsea Hockett in Texas is in a runoff.
Okay.
Rob Ryers in Arkansas won his primary, and there's one other who I'm spacing on who has won their primary. But of course, there's I want to say it was 4 or 5 candidates in Illinois who lost. Illinois
Mhm.
was not a good day for left-leaning
No,
politics.
not at all. Yeah.
So there's Illinois, and then there's one other state that I'm spacing on, but there's 50 candidates left right now who are still, I guess you could say, pending, depending on what happens next.
And are you only approaching Democrats, or are you also across the
Ooh.
aisle? There's no partisanship to this issue.
I'm not going to lie and tell you I'm literally approaching, well, not approaching physically, but approaching virtually every
Right.
Republican.
Mm-hmm.
I would gladly let them take the pledge. Like,
Yeah.
you could be running if you're running as a self-identified fascist, you could take the pledge. I mean, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to say people should vote for you, but you
Right.
can take the pledge.
Yeah.
But to this point, it's been vast. It's the vast majority have been Democrats, but I want to say
Sure.
there's been probably 6 or 7 independent candidates of like
Okay.
the 60 or so that we've had take the pledge.
And that makes sense. It makes
Yeah.
sense for independents to do that. Just curious if any Republicans have joined in yet.
Not yet, no.
Not yet. Okay.
But like I
That
said,
would that would
we're
be a
not
cold
out.
day in hell.
I mean, you never know.
You never know.
I'm open. I'm open to being proven wrong. Like, what's that saying? Be curious, not judgmental. It's
Right.
hard, but I'm
Yeah.
trying.
Yeah, no doubt. So on your website, you guys say that you want to be informed through the testimony of that you've received from people who have been in these ICE detention centers, which I mean, we're experiencing, rape. We're talking about, minors being impregnated, women being impregnated, sexual assault across the board, whether it's men or women. And that's just beginning, right? I mean, the food rationing is awful. What are some of the things that you've heard of in these stories that you've been receiving from people who have been in these places? And I feel, and the reason why I feel it's important is that people need to be confronted with how awful it is. And until we understand what's really going on from the people who have been there, it's not really going to hit home like it should. So what are you hearing?
It would probably blow your mind. It's
Yeah.
kind of similar to the kind of stories you would see written in like that was happening in like 1950s in like Russia, or what was it, East Germany, or like gulags.
Yeah.
It, things that sound like that, like torture. It's been very commonly reported that they're not having their medical needs tended to because the contract is ended, so they just don't care. There's been people who have had diabetes that are very obviously treatable and just have not gotten their medication, and they've died because they did not get insulin. So like these things are completely avoidable, and a lot of them, and this shouldn't make your life worth more than someone else's, but there have been citizens die in these prisons in the few circumstances where they've taken in citizen like U.S. citizens. And of course, you can't forget Preddy and Renee Nicole Good.
Yes.
So, and unfortunately, I hate that this is like a necessity in our country, but you see a lot more people get activated once you see white people targeted. So that makes everyone afraid.
Yeah, because
And
I think a lot of people
yeah,
don't really, when they talk about Minnesota, they kind of leave Keith Porter out of that conversation.
true.
And, he was a victim as well, so randomly and unnecessarily shot on New Year's Eve for having a firearm outside of his apartment building and shooting into the sky at midnight. But yeah,
When the NRA starts taking your side on these things, you know you're on the right side.
yeah,
Because I mean, I'm not a supporter of the NRA necessarily. I support people having their guns if they want to, whatever, that's fine. But like when they start taking the side of like the predominantly left-leaning group, because it's
hmm
that obvious, you should
right,
kind of pay attention.
yeah, absolutely. So, leadership in this type of grassroots activism carries an emotional weight, I would imagine. You hear a lot of stories. You probably have a lot more insight into the things that are happening, like what you mentioned to Seth, that are happening inside of these detention centers. How do you sort of, is there a personal toll that this is taking on you? How do you remain hopeful doing this work?
So I would say yes. But just to give you like I guess a very little brief, intro into like me as a person, not just the organization. Like I'm neurodivergent, and something that is fairly common among neurodivergent people is hyper empathy.
Yeah.
So when I see these things happening, whether it's ICE, Gaza, etc., human rights abuses, they hit me like it's a neighbor, like it's
Yep.
my cousin, like it's my mother, my aunt, whoever, because they're
Mm-hmm.
human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to kind of take into account that if you hit a different lottery in the genetics, well, not genetic lottery, but if you were born over there,
Geographical lottery.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, some of us are born wealthy, but some of us are born in Gaza. Some of us are
Yeah.
born as someone who's Latino in South America, who, granted, a lot of people in South and Central America are fleeing because of situations that our country has caused.
100%. We talk about that a lot. A million percent. We destabilize regions all over the world in the name of democracy. And we rarely, if ever, I don't think ever, have left a country in a better situation once we've left than before we got there. And they have complete economic collapse and despair, and they have to flee. And where do they flee to? And then we villainize them for that.
And it's kind of crazy if you put this into perspective, because people, I love when I hear, not love, I being sarcastic, but
Yep.
when I hear people say like, "Oh, Democrats are such leftists, they're communists," and I'm like, for one, I wish there were more people further left than myself, because there's
Mm-hmm.
not many, and I don't even think my ideas are crazy. Like they're
Right.
not, I'm not saying burn the whole system down,
Yeah.
but we should be logical about these things.
Yeah.
And the thing that, to put into perspective, that I was going to mention, I almost forgot. Nerdvergent again.
Mm-hmm.
Ronald Reagan is to the left of many Democrats today on immigration. He granted
Yes.
amnesty to over 5 million undocumented people.
Mm-hmm.
Why? I mean, you're not seeing that among some of these more centrist-y Democrats who, and granted, this is why Democrats are so bad in general on immigration. They let Republicans define the conversation. So
Yes.
they are playing defense off of everything they say. If you
Mm-hmm.
actually tried framing, which is something that you should learn when you get into politics, like 101,
I mean,
frame the argument.
yes. Yeah. And be, like you said, be proactive, get ahead of it, figure out what your messaging is, and that's what you should be talking about. We are so off balanced and flat footed when it comes to Republicans and their talking points around these really explosive topics. And it's ineffective, because we're just saying that's terrible, that's wrong. And again, it's one side or the other side. There's so much nuance and gray that we don't talk about. And your example with Ronald Reagan is a perfect example of that. Why aren't
And
we
I'm not
saying that?
And I'm not like a big fan of his, the things he
No,
did for like
absolutely
the AIDS
not.
epidemic, and like his
Yeah.
best friend Rock Hudson. They basically
Mm-hmm.
ostracized him. Just that's just to pick one thing. But
Yep.
like there's so many, but broken clocks for one.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, like this just shows you that the Democratic Party hasn't shifted left. The
Right.
party as a structure has shifted right.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely. I think, Seth, are you back online yet? I know
Yeah,
you're
I'm back.
struggling
Sorry,
over
guys.
there.
Like my phone literally shut down because it's so hot
Oh no.
Well,
in
he is in
Alabama.
outer
It was
space.
like you're not. It was like you're
I
not allowed
know.
to use me
He's
right now,
always in outer space, Adam. We can't get him back to
and it's
Earth.
so
I don't
hot
know.
because I'm on the sun.
Yes, he's literally on the
I'm
sun.
starting to think you can tell
But
me where Supergirl
Alabama.
is.
See, we were taught that Alabama is in the United States. It's actually on the sun. So yeah.
I have you beat. Go to Mississippi. I was stationed there when I was
Oh,
in the
Oh
Navy for a
yeah.
bit.
Okay. We can trade stories on that.
uh-huh.
Yeah, Meridian,
Okay. Well.
Mississippi.
Okay. Well, one thing I did want to know, and I guess we got to edit around this, but I just want to make sure that we haven't touched on it because you were talking about, obviously we don't want to remove something without finding a solution to, to what we want to do once we abolish ICE. We don't want to just leave that vacant. So have
Correct.
we talked about what you would replace it with or something like that?
So the thing is, with the pledge, I wanted to make it as broad as possible so that people wouldn't get hung up on the kind of granular details. Because the thing is, there's numerous ways to skin a cat. I know I'm using a weirdly weird old like cliche, I guess, but like there's so many different ways in which you can make the system more humane. Even if you wanted to only go back to what INS was before 2003, which I'm not saying was anywhere close to perfect, but it was better than what we have now.
Hmm.
It would still function better, but we should go further. I'm sick and tired of doing half measures when people want more. And the thing is, there's millions and millions of people who can't wait for this incrementalism that both parties have basically told us accept it or get out.
Yeah.
So no, I don't accept it.
Do you
Yeah,
think
I
there's
agree, and it's because and the reason why I brought that up, honestly, was folks like we're spending something like more than like there's like 7 countries who spend more on their whole military than we do on ICE, and there's other things that we could be doing with this money, y'all. There's
Mhm.
other things that we could be doing, cheaper ways of doing what we were doing. I believe a whole different branch of the government used to handle,
Well,
immigration and stuff like that. And we could certainly go back to that, and it wouldn't cost us $150 billion. So
well,
that's my whole thing. Is like this is just a cash grab for the military industrial complex. Hey, let's order more Kevlar vests. Let's order more guns. Let's order this and that, and that's all it is. That's all it
not
is.
just
We're not taking criminals off the streets. We're not.
no.
No.
I was gonna say, I want to say I read something. I think it was like 94% of those that they are rounding up with ICE have no criminal record.
Yeah.
Because again,
It's a
if you
cartoonish number.
and of course, anytime they poll on immigration, they say, do you like they do push polls? It's never comprehensive. They never say, would you support people who've never committed a violent crime or anything like that? Would you
Hmm.
support them staying in the United States? They never ask that question. So
Right.
it's, do you want illegals deported?
Hmm.
That's all they say. Because
Hmm.
once they actually add nuance and context, they start losing that support. So we need to educate ourselves, and I know that's hard in this day and age where we're constantly being bombarded by everything, but people just got to take the few minutes. But the good thing is if they go to my website, not my, but our organization's website, they can get a lot of that information.
Mm. And
So,
tell the people your website address, please.
of course, so it's triple spelled out, so TRIPLE, N as in November, C as in Charlie, so triple NC.org.
Okay.
And it'll have plenty of like testimonials of things that have happened. It'll show our plans. You can even see what the pledge looks like itself. You can see all the candidates that have taken it. You can even look up, based on your zip code, what elected officials on different levels of government, like federal levels of government, are there, and see if they have taken the pledge or not.
Hmm.
So there's all the tools to be able to actually take ownership and join our army pushing for justice.
And
I actually, sorry,
no,
real
go
quick.
ahead.
I just remembered obviously that, I'm in Alabama. I saw that somebody from Alabama has taken the pledge.
Oh,
And so I'm
great.
like,
The
bam, I already
veto.
know who to vote for there. So, I mean,
Hmm.
it's just it's the tracker is a great idea. It's
Yeah.
just a great idea. We love to see the numbers go up. If people are rejecting or saying that they're not going to do it, I want to know who those people are too, so I don't vote for them.
Yeah.
I will.
100%.
I do want to highlight one thing I've heard from, I would say, more prominent candidates. Not a ton, but some. I've heard the, oh, but our candidate, and I'm here. I'm talking to staffers or
Hmm.
campaign staffers, whatever. But I've heard from a few that, oh, the candidate has been very clear about their position on abolishing ICE, and then they've sent me links and things like that. And I try to be clear. I'm like, it's not that I'm sending you this or we're reaching out to you because we want to change their opinion. We want them to put it on a higher level of accountability.
Right.
Because just to give you an example, Gavin Newsom ran when he was running for re-election as governor on single payer in California. He
Hmm.
vetoed single payer in California.
Yeah.
Imagine if there was a pledge on video of him saying, I will support this. Do you know
Right.
how that wouldn't end at any point? He'd be badgered about that until the end of his administration.
Exactly. Exactly. And so I guess I also want to talk about, we live in this insane 24/7 news cycle. New crazy things are happening every day under this administration. So I've noticed that coverage on ICE has sort of dissipated, right?
Iran. Yep.
Because of Iran.
Yeah.
So, but I want to be clear, that doesn't mean that their presence has diminished in states across the country. They're still out there. They're still using these really violent tactics
You're
to
still in
gather people
Minnesota.
up. They're still in Minnesota. So
Yeah.
we're not seeing it like we were seeing it. But that doesn't mean that it's not happening. And so I just wanted sort of your confirmation of that, because a lot of people watching this might say, well, gosh, I haven't seen anything about ICE in a long time.
No, it is still very much happening. They still have. I want to say they're looking to deport 5,000 people per day, which is
Mm.
their quota, if I recall, from Stephen
Hmm.
Count Dracula, whatever we're calling him
Yes.
nowadays.
Yes.
Um, but like quotas are insane to begin with. That's
Right.
another another story. But like the thing is, this is why they're rounding up people who have never committed any serious crimes, because
Yeah,
they need to reach that quota.
exactly.
So you're not looking to make the system work when that happens. You're just looking to build up the numbers.
Yep. Yep. Before I go to Seth for kind of final words, what do you need right now as an organization? Is there any support that is needed to help expand your work and your reach? Let the audience know what we can do to help.
Well, having a background in politics before this, one of the
Mm-hmm.
worst things in the world is asking for money.
Yep.
But that is absolutely something as a brand new 501c4 nonprofit that we definitely need help with. But it's not
Mm-hmm.
just that. Even if someone can't donate to the cause, you can still do other things. Like we give you the ability to reach out to candidates, to reach out to sitting elected officials and getting them to at least consider abolishing ICE, or at least
Love that.
moving closer to abolishing ICE.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of these people, if they hold the unpopular opinion, and grant it is the unpopular opinion, especially among Democrats. Most
Mm-hmm.
recent poll had 77% of Democrats supporting abolishing ICE. That's over 3/4 of the party,
Yeah.
and that's without the party supporting it. Imagine if they
Exactly.
actually supported it. So anyway, yes, there's donations, of course, on the website, but then taking that ownership and reaching out to candidates, doing like 5 minutes of research. You can
Yeah.
see candidates that have done this and see how they've spoken. And even if they haven't spoken on it, ask.
And we're happy to, kind of fold this question into our conversations with candidates as we go through this journey of interviewing people that are running for midterms and connecting them with you if they feel like that they're willing to take that pledge. So,
Bring them over.
yeah,
and I'll
absolutely.
and I'll have the tough conversations with them if they're stuck on any of the details. I
Yeah.
have no issue talking.
I
I'm
can't imagine any of the candidates that we've interviewed so far would bat an eye, or, they would immediately be like, yeah, give me his name. Where do I
Instantly.
go? Instant, sign me up. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, of course, still room to grow, but
Yep.
there's so many candidates that have just not joined the fold yet, but they're ready to join the fold. I mean,
Yeah.
there's U.S. Senate candidates who are openly saying abolish ICE, like
Yeah.
Abdul El Sayed has said we should abolish
Yes.
ICE.
Yes.
Graham Plattner has said we should abolish ICE.
And they
Uh,
are they're nationally recognized candidates with big platforms that have big endorsements. I know Bernie endorsed Abdul a couple of weeks ago. Graham obviously getting endorsements as well. So those are big names to be saying we need to abolish ICE.
and even one of them taking the pledge, just
Yeah.
imagine what that would do.
Yeah.
And one other thing I did want to mention, because we talked earlier about like kind of like the mission.
Mm-hmm.
This year is about really building that foundation, because we're really gearing up to do as much as we can to get every Democrat running for president to take a pledge to abolish
Yeah.
ICE.
Yeah.
Because without having a Democratic president in office who's in favor of abolishing ICE, you're not
Mm-hmm.
going to, it's going to be very difficult to get enough numbers to be a veto proof majority. We
100%.
need we need a president who's on board as well.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this is great. It's very proactive. It's very forward thinking. It's so it's so unlike Democrats to be doing this. We're thinking ahead, we're planning ahead, and we're
I'm a
building a
leftist. I'm not
movement from the ground up. Like,
Well,
wow.
I'm a human being first. I'm a
Yeah.
leftist second. I'm a Democrat on good days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. We should totally
We're
make
with
this
you.
a thing, this
Yeah.
proactivity thing.
Right.
Well,
Exactly.
well, Adam, we really appreciate you coming on the program. I just wanted to finish by saying, thank you very much for your time, and tell everybody, like, and I'm telling everybody, go find your representatives. This is
Mhm.
about accountability, everybody. This is where it starts. Where do you stand? Where
Yeah.
do you stand? Do you want us spending $150 billion on, these gravy seals? Like, you got to be kidding me. Absolutely not. So volunteer, find your reps. Adam has links to all these things on the website again. And if you have friends who have stories, testimonies about these things, encourage them to come forward. I know it's dangerous,
Yeah.
but people need to hear these stories. Again,
Mhm.
until it's in people's faces, it's really difficult to get people to move to action. So again, make sure that you check out the website, find all these different things, and hold your public officials accountable.
And
Absolutely.
and you know what? You just kind of triggered a thought for me that there have been not even whispers, conversations about ICE being deployed to polling locations in the
Yeah.
midterm. So, why would we? They're basically a privately funded, they're a taxpayer funded militia that's going to be used against us as well.
Let's
I
not
refer
forget,
to them.
Allie. Let's not forget, Allie. They're they're gonna ruin the World Cup.
Yeah.
They're going to turn
Well, they already
the
have.
World Cup into a non-event, and it's going to
Yeah.
be it'll be an international embarrassment. And as a sports fan, I'm at a loss. Like,
Yeah.
it's a joke. This is a joke.
I know, we can kind of get sucked into hyperbole, especially in politics, but I refer to them as the American Gestapo.
Yeah.
Because I
And that's
mean,
appropriate.
they're doing extrajudicial things. People are
Mm-hmm.
getting disappeared and having no trace. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's the kind of things the Gestapo was doing
Yep.
to
Absolutely.
Jews in Europe in the 30s and the 40s. Like, we should be, and you stop these things by acknowledging them first and then calling them out second.
Yeah.
So what are we waiting for?
Absolutely. So, even though we're seeing less coverage of ICE in our cities and states, they are still out there. They're still using the same tactics they've been using. They're still dealing with daily quotas. And now there's so much talk about them being used for in interfering with the midterm elections, basically. Intimidating voters, making it more difficult to get people out there to vote for the midterm elections. So they're here to stay, and they're only going to get worse.
It's the Republicans' Hail Mary.
Yeah.
I typically try to avoid like the partisanship aspect of this, which of
Mm-hmm.
course doesn't completely stay out of the conversation. But I saw a poll today that showed a generic congressional ballot. Democrats were 50, Republicans were 39.
Wow.
So the
Wow.
only thing you can do to try to prevent that is to try to delegitimize elections
Yep.
or just manipulate them just blatantly.
And we'll be seeing all of that happen, I am sure. But Adam, what a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on Left Out Loud. We're gonna get our audience to go to your website, talk to your local candidates, talk to your local elected officials, because you can be in office and join this pledge, right? There's no barrier to them doing that. You don't have to just be running for office. You could be in office and take this pledge.
100%. And that's
Yeah.
US senators, Congress members, and even people we know are going to run for president. If they want to be on
Yep.
board early, we're glad to have them.
Love it. And like I said, we'll start folding this question in with our interviews, and we'll make sure that we're connecting people with you every chance we get.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks,
you so much for
Adam.
having me on.
Oh, thanks for coming. It's been a real pleasure.
Absolutely. Likewise.
All right, Seth, that was Adam Baumel from the founder and president of Neighbors Not Numbers Coalition. What a great guy.
Yeah, that was a great interview. A lot of really good information.
Yeah.
And folks, you got to go to the website. He has testimonies on there from people who have been in these ICE detention centers. This needs to be something that continues to be on our mind while everything
Mhm.
is going on with Iran, while everything is happening with the files. It's just where we are. You
Yeah.
know, in this time, we got a lot of plates spinning. We got to keep our eyes on different things because we're being invaded by fascism. so, so
I heard somebody say today, I posted a video, I think it was on the Daily Show. The host was saying, we're tired of edging dictatorship. And I was like, literally, that's the best description I've ever heard. Like,
man,
because
so
we don't know where this is going to go. We don't know if we're even going to have free and fair midterms. We don't know if he's going to leave when his
right,
time here is done. He just
yeah,
may say, nope, I'm here forever.
yeah,
So, we have to unfortunately look at so many things at the same time. It feels overwhelming, but this is an organization, ICE, that is, I promise you, going to be used against American citizens, whether it be to interfere in elections, whether it be to start rounding up people that they consider to be radical because they're on the left. They've been talking about stuff like that lately. So we need politicians and candidates to pledge on paper with their signature and their voice to abolish ICE.
yeah. I mean, this moment has brought forth people like Adam,
Yeah.
who for such a time as this, they're sitting there like, I gotta take action. And
Mm-hmm.
so, the website and the cause is obviously a great idea. The
Yeah.
tracker is a great tool for people to use. And again, folks, hold your people accountable. Send this to the people that you're thinking about supporting, because if they don't support dismantling ICE, then what does that say about them? You know?
Exactly.
And so, yeah, great talk with Adam.
Great
And,
talk.
it's just something that's badly needed at this time because ICE needs to be brought back to the forefront because it hasn't stopped.
Yep. So check out the website. We'll post a link to it here. Talk to your representatives, check on your candidates that are running in your areas, see if they have signed up for this pledge. If they haven't, give them a call, send them an email, talk to their campaign team. And also, if you can chip in a couple of dollars, it goes a long way for an organization like this to be able to create the infrastructure that's needed, that we have information to who's on board and who's not on board in an instant on an ongoing basis. So love that idea too. But absolutely great conversation. Neighbors Not Numbers Coalition. Great job. Great work. Keep it going.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's just part of this mad dash that we're making during the primaries, heading into midterms.
Yes.
So it's a lot of great information, y'all, and please take advantage of it. Again, this is how you differentiate between your candidates. Not every Democrat is your friend. Not every Democrat is a progressive.
They're not all the same. So, all right, another interview tomorrow, Seth. So let's get some rest and get back at it.
All right.
Mañana.
All right. Later.
Bye.